Good morning, everyone. My name is Ms. Keitel. I am the art teacher at Northwest Junior High, and I also have some online courses that I am creating this video for. We were lucky enough to watch a TED Talk by the artist Louise Despont yesterday, and with her inspiration, we used things in the art room as well as items at home to create some symmetrical items with those stencils. Now, we talked about different subjects. It could have been a person, an animal, an item, buildings, landscapes, or any just kind of design that you came up with on your own. So we used different stencils such as circle stencils, curved line stencils. We had compasses for anyone who needed to make a variation of those different size circles, and just a multitude of other stencils here. So the goal was to experiment. Now today, our focus is to create a landscape. Now, the kind of landscape that you want to create is up to you. Maybe it's a cityscape, and it's going to include a lot of buildings, those more geometric shapes within that, and you get to kind of pick and choose what those established buildings are within that city. We could also do a landscape that's in the countryside. We live in the state of Iowa, and most of us can travel within 20 minutes and be in the countryside. So you might also think about the kind of shapes that you would see in a landscape in nature or where we live. I'm going to go ahead and shift my focus down to my paper here. Today, I'm going to give a quick little example of what we're looking for. Now, everybody is going to have a different outcome. And that is the beauty of what we're doing, and that is the ideal of creation, right? Not everyone is going to end up with the same thing, but we might be using some of the similar materials. Now, these are the stencils that we had within the art room. If you don't have stencils, then you can draw your own shapes. You could use a ruler or a straight edge to create any of these shapes that we have. But for what I'm doing today, I'm going to create a landscape that is more in nature, a landscape that I might see close to where I live in Iowa City. So I'm going to use a half of a circle here for some of my shapes. I also have these curved lines that I'm fond of for kind of thinking of that landscape. And then I do want to have some geometric shapes to create maybe homes or some establishments along this landscape. So I'm going to just jump right in. Today I'm using a pen so that you can visually see it, but if you're using a pencil, you can just jump right in and always erase anything that you no longer need. So I definitely want to have like this pretty big overarching hill here. I know that it looks way more perfect than what any hill on the countryside would look like, but I want this to just kind of be my base and the biggest part of my drawing here. Then I'm going to fiddle around with this curved line and see how I might just be able to alternate it or move it around to kind of establish these other landscape features. And I like how this curve turns out, so I'm going to keep on curving it up. Now, this does not have to be extremely realistic. When we are creating, when we are adapting from one kind of theme to another, we have that full power as an artist to decide how realistic or how abstract these might become. Okay. Now I've got this just kind of middle ground. Remember, when we have drawings, we have a background, a middle ground, and a foreground. So I've established kind of my middle size shapes. As things get further away, they're going to get smaller, and as things come closer to us, they will be larger. So if this is the size of my hill in my middle ground, then I would expect that the size of a hill in my foreground would be significantly larger, right? And this doesn't have too big of a scale difference, so I might even just see how I can finagle my stencils here or my shapes to then establish that larger arch, that larger hill shape for my background, for my foreground, excuse me. Now remember that in that background, we could use these other shapes and get these smaller areas, or we can just adjust as we go and see how we like the aesthetic. Now, when I talk about aesthetic, we're talking about if we like how it looks, if we like how our composition or our building of our shapes and our lines come together. Now, I have just some simple lines here for the background, middle ground, foreground, and I'm going to come in with some of these other shapes and just start to think about, what else do I want to define here in this space? Do I have homes in multiple places? Maybe I could really play on that scale of my foreground, middle ground, and background. Okay. Now, folks, this is really basic. This is super simplified, and I have not had the time to really dive in and add lots and lots of shapes and lines here. But I want you to see, and I want to lay out this idea of a foreground, a middle ground, and a background, no matter what landscape you are creating. Please have fun today. This is meant to be experimental. This is meant to help you kind of think about how we can use shapes, how we can use repetition of shapes to create landscapes. Good luck today, everybody. I look forward to seeing your work.